You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
Welcome to Beyond the Wheel, the podcast where we explore the people and ideas driving the RV and today the overland world forward. Today's episode features a conversation with Shrinka, the owner of Overland Outfitters, and Jeff, an independent designer working with her. Known for their high-quality, functional storage solutions for Jeeps and other overland vehicles, Overland Outfitters blends style, durability, and thoughtful design. Together, they share how the company got started, why creating jobs in India was central to the mission, and how customer feedback and collaboration continue to shape their products. It's a great look at the intersection of design, function, and community in the overlanding gear space. Let's jump into the conversation.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining us today. Could you kind of start by just introducing yourself and sharing your role at Overland Outfitters?
Sure. And thanks for having us. We're happy to be here. First of all, I am not an employee of Overland Outfitters. I'm an independent designer, and I work for 5 or 6 other Jeep and off-road companies and starting to do some work in the camper space. I've done product design work and consulting work for about a dozen years, including hardware design, fiberglass hardtops, technical systems like solar, and of course, the fabric products that Overland Outfitters offers. Back to your question. So my role at Overland Outfitters is to come up with useful, practical, and stylish storage accessories for use in Jeeps, other expedition overland vehicles, and we're starting to look at camper vehicles and even occasionally mall crawlers. Other than that, it's Shrinka's company, and she owns and operates it, and I'm sure she'll answer some of your questions later on in the interview.
How would you describe Overland Outfitters to someone that's unfamiliar with the brand?
There are a lot of storage products on the market for Jeeps, for overland vehicles, for campers, and most of them are not super high quality. They're made of vinyl or polyester. They're not what you'd call high style. They're functional and useful, but Overland Outfitters focuses on providing very high quality storage products with unique classic styling. We use military grade canvas. We use real leather for reinforcements and style accents. So the products are designed to serve well for very long time. And in fact, that we've chosen our leather so that it develops a classic patina over time, making it look like a treasured heirloom. So it's our niche in the market is sort of the high style, high quality, high function niche. We don't do anything out of cheaper materials. We try to do everything that impresses people when they see it just from the styling. So that's what our brand is all about. It's about functionality, style, and quality.
And when you say storage, what kind of products should we assume are storage products?
Well, all kinds. So just to talk about a Jeep for a second. There are many places in a Jeep where you can hang a bag or hang a pouch. So we build things that are sort of specific to a vehicle. We have things that hang on the back of the seat off the headrest. We have things that fit in very specific locations in a Jeep. For example, in a 4-door Wrangler, there's space behind the back seat that's over curved and sloped inner fenders, which is wasted space because it's so hard to use. So we have bags that fit very specifically in those locations. We have things that fit on the roll bars of Jeeps. We have things that fit in specific locations in the new Grenadier that's just out. They're made of fabric. They're storage. Many of them look like bags. Some of them don't. And they all, they're designed to go in specific locations and make use of storage or space that you might not otherwise be able to use.
Generally, you can. Sorry, this is Shrinka. Generally, you classify it in three segments. You have storage on the spare, moving from the back of the vehicle. So in many vehicles, there is a spare mounted at the back. So we've got custom storage products that can be mounted on the tire, around the tire, in that space. As you go inside, there are storage products that can hang from behind the seat. There are storage products that are functional when you're camping or overlanding, like a first aid bag, or maybe your morning routine bag because you're out in the wild. And then, like Jeff just described, there are some custom bags that can fit specific vehicles. So it's a whole range of products that we put out there.
Yeah, and I first met you guys out at Overland West, and I was immediately impressed by what you were creating and selling at that show. I wound up buying 2 bags for my Jeep Wrangler, and
Do
the
you
bags that I
like them?
purchased. Oh, they're fat. Yeah, they're fantastic. So the show ended on Sunday. I had those bags on my Jeep on Monday, and I started using them immediately. And the great thing about them, like you said, I consider them to be kind of space saving because I'm using an area of my Jeep now that typically would not have been able to store anything. So I put them on my roll bars on, I bought 2 bags from you and I put one on my driver's side and one for my passenger side. So now one side of them, the one side of the bag now has my air pressure checker and it's got my tire deflators in it. And then the other bag has a flashlight. It's got eyeglass cleaner. I wear glasses, so now it's
Yep.
nice and convenient. I'm on a trail and it gets dusty. I got eyeglass cleaner like right by my shoulder, and I just pop it open and I'm able to get to my what I need very easily. Yeah, I thought the bags were very, very high quality. That's what caught my attention right away, is just being able to see them and pick them up and hold them, and the texture and everything. Yeah, they feel like they're going to last me a lifetime.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
one of the things, and we're glad you're a happy customer. And one of the things about her company is she has an extremely high repeat customer rate. Most companies would kill to have the repeat customer rate that she has, but people get one of the bags and they have the same reaction you do, and it's like, wait, I've got to get more. So it really grows on people. They get one, they love it, they want more.
Yeah, like I said, I have 2 already, and I'm already looking at, inside my Jeep of like, where else could I put a bag?
Perfect.
I mean, especially for me. So my Jeep is an older one. It's a 2001. It's the 2-door small body Jeep. There isn't a lot of storage in that Jeep to begin with. So every little bit, I mean, makes a world of a difference. So yeah, I appreciate you guys making these bags that fit right on the bar. It's perfect.
Yep.
So Shrinka, could you kind of tell us the story behind Overland Outfitters? What inspired you to start the company, and what was your original vision for it?
Kenny, I come from India. Me and Jeff, we've been together. I've seen Jeff go through his design process with many different other companies. He's worked with metal, he's worked with fiberglass, and churned out products that have made a lot of entrepreneurs very, very successful. He's a brilliant designer. So at one point, about 6 years ago, I said to him, hey, can we do something to bring some employment back home? Something that we can create and make in India and would still work commercially as a product, because you seem to be an expert at doing that. So he thought about it very hard, and I let him speak for how he came up with those storage bag ideas, because you wouldn't think he would come up with that idea. I was thinking he'd hand me some kind of overlanding table or something to make in India, but he told me he's going to go cloth. And he had never designed in cloth before or leather before, so it was a surprise to me too. But I've learned over the years to trust his judgment in terms of design, so it worked out. But I let him tell the story.
Yeah, I mean the reason I came up with cloth is I've been a Jeeper and Overlander for probably 20 plus years, and I've never been satisfied with what I can buy commercially. There's, as you said, you have a smaller Wrangler. There's just no storage, and if you're going to be a serious user of your Jeep out in the wild, you've got to have storage for all the many things you need to carry for emergencies and for everything else. I just was never satisfied with what I could buy because of the cheap quality, made in China, vinyl, etc. So I went to Shrinka and I said, you know what? Why don't you be the Filson of the overland world? High quality, real leather, styling that people would be proud to have in their vehicle, last for a lifetime, but also is extremely functional and adds value to what they're trying to do with their vehicle. Because nobody's doing that. I mean, there's dozens of fabric storage product companies there, but nobody does what Overland Outfitters is doing. And so that was my idea. It's like let's take some inspiration from the high-end bag market like Filson, and even Duluth Trading had some really nice bags out at the time. And let's do something like that for the vehicle market. It's gotten an incredible reaction from people at shows when they first see the products from a distance. They're drawn into the booth. They have to touch them. They want to feel the leather. So it's really worked out well.
And the reason why we don't see any other company in our space, like we don't have competition, because when I started the company with my factory in India, the objective was not to pay the bills in the United States. The objective was to just have employment for a few people back home. Because the cost of material is so high, the cost of manufacturing is so high, it is not mass produced in China or Vietnam or somewhere in a factory which is really large, churning out 1,000 pieces a day. Nobody else can compete. The market is not so big. It's a very small, unique, niche market. The customer base is not too big. So it just, it kind of works. It doesn't pay many bills. I am barely able to keep the company afloat, but it meets the objective of having 15, 20 people gainfully employed, and me contributing to the economy there and style over here, which nobody else will be able to afford otherwise.
And by the way, the folks at the factory in India are some of the best people I've ever worked with. These are people who have done this kind of work, this handcrafting for generations. And they do, I mean, I sew. When I do a design, I sew a prototype. And sometimes I'm embarrassed. I mean, it looks nice, but I'm embarrassed to show it to them because they are perfectionists. So I'll show them my prototype, and they're very polite to me, and they'll reproduce it to perfection. And most of them and I don't speak the same language in terms of what our native tongue is, but somehow we manage to speak the same language when it comes to what we need to do to get a product built. And it works out really well, and they're just really, really fine people.
These products are all essentially hand sewn or machine sewn, but by people, not by machines.
They're machine sewn. There's some hand sewing, but it's done by people with sewing machines, not by automation.
Right. Okay.
Handcrafted.
Handcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine that alone is a rarity today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why, Kenny, you don't see anybody else jumping. Like, we've been in the market for 5 years. Nobody would be able to make it work financially.
From that initial thought of designing something to actually selling your first product, kind of tell us how long that process took, and were there any like pitfalls or challenges that you had to fight through to make that happen?
It didn't take very long. I mean, we started with some contract folks over in India, so we didn't have to like get the factory ramped up on day one to do this. So we started with some contract folks who do work for actually fashion bag companies, so like women's fashion bags and things. So they're used to doing high quality work. So I created 3 or 4 products at first. Fairly simple products, sewed some prototypes, went over to India, shared them with the contract folks, and they were able to reproduce them. I mean, very expertly and quickly, and we got those on the market, and that started the ball rolling. And then Shrinka and the folks over there started building their own capability for sewing, so we didn't need the contract.
Yeah, and as far as going to the market is concerned, the product, Kenny, you've seen it. It just sells. It calls on some kind of vintage, old school feel, or it tugs on you. So it just sells itself. We started, I think we started in Bantam Jeep Show. That was our first show, and we barely had three products, and we probably made about $2,000, and that was enough to get the company committed to doing this because there was such a demand for what we were doing, and it was so unique.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I love that word vintage. I think that really nails the aesthetic to your design. I think it has a very classic, rugged, vintage look to it. And that is what drawed me to your booth, the booth that you had out at Overland West. I could not walk by that booth and not stop and take a closer look of what you have.
Yeah, I keep vintage and retro things in mind whenever I do a design. One of the inspirations, you think of like the bag that Indiana Jones carried, right? His the bag he carried everywhere on his adventures, and that's vintage. And I think if you look at we have a product that mounts on the spare tire we call it the spare hopper, and there are a number of cargo bags that mount on the spare, and they're all sort of blah and lifeless and just lumps. And our inspiration for the spare hopper was cars of the 30s, when cars had actual trunks on the back and they had leather straps to hold the top of the trunk closed. If you look at our spare hopper, we've recreated that in acrylic fabric with leather straps. So it's really stylish. It invokes sort of a retro feel from the 30s, and it's unlike any of the other lifeless, shapeless backpacks on a tire that are on the market.
Yeah, and for the show notes for anybody listening, I took some photos of their booth at the Overland Expo. Definitely go to the show notes, take a look at the photos I took. I'll be sharing them in the show notes. I was curious if you guys could share, size and scope of the company. I think you said you have about 15 people that are now sewing for you. When you first started, Shrinka, was it just you? Were you doing the sewing yourself, and you have grown to 15 people, or did you start out at a pretty large scale right off the start?
Kenny, I'm not the seamstress at all. I cannot sew to save my life. I didn't grow up learning that skill. But like Jeff shared with you, we do have a pretty large industry in India which caters to exports of leather bags and leather products, especially in the fashion area. So the first year or so of the company, we were outsourcing the production to subcontractors. And it was a very involved process because quality was really key. We had custom fitted products. Measurements were really key as opposed to what they were used to doing, which was just handbags for ladies or not so specific product. The technical specifications were not really there besides the fabric and the kind of zipper they used. So it became extremely challenging to continue to get them to produce quality product meeting our specifications. So we had to set up a company. We started the factory with three people. I think we would have always been three to four people in the factory, except COVID happened. And when COVID happened, the overlanding market just boomed. It went crazy. We couldn't keep up with the orders. So we grew at that time to about 20 people just to meet the demand. And because it was our own unit, we were able to do that. But since then, I find that 15 is a good number which can support the demands in this market. because it's not a very large number of people. It's a very unique niche market that we have. It's not for everybody. Not everybody likes to carry a leather bag. So it's a very niche market and it's a very small number. And 15 is the number that 15, 16 people is what we usually have in the factory now.
Okay, so you have shown great growth in a short period of time.
Well, I still work here like a one person company, so I don't know if I can really afford
Okay.
another human being.
But
Okay.
Shrinka, you're ignoring the fact that you have major distribution through companies like Quadratech. So all you have to do is have a box sent from India to them, and they do all the work for you. So
They do.
you do a lot of volume through places like
Yeah,
Quadratech.
yeah. But it's not, again, Kenny, it's not enough to justify going to China or, shipping a container. I do really small 20 kg, or in your parlance, 40-pound boxes from India. So it's a very small number of boxes that we are shipping. And so it works. So, for example, in the last 3 years, I haven't raised my prices because I can afford not to. Because the objective is not profiteering. The objective is just to keep those 20 people or 15 people employed. So it's a small company with a very simple objective of having 15 people employed back home. That's it.
I got you. I got you. And I do appreciate the conversion because I was like 20 kilogram. I don't know. But I have a follow up question that I think kind of goes with this. You guys do a lot of custom work. My wife is vegan, and I have mentioned to you guys about the bags. If it was possible to make something without leather, and you guys were completely okay with that. Like you were okay to take on custom work that way. For somebody that wants something custom, how big of a wrench does that kind of throw into your process, and how long would somebody have to wait for something that's custom rather than something that's already like in your catalog?
Let me take this. If it's a product that's in the catalog, but as we talked at the show that somebody's vegan and they'd rather not have leather, they'd like us to do it all in cloth. That's easy. We can do that depending on our production schedule, but typically in about 2 weeks. We also do, so I'll call it OEM work. So we've done products for a number of companies that like our style, they like our quality, they have a product that they want to have a carrying bag for example. There was actually a company at Overland West that had us do custom bags for their product, and that's an iterative process. We do a prototype, we review the design with them, they make suggestions, we make some changes, etc. So it could be a longer period of time to do custom work for them, but we're always interested in doing custom things to make people happy and to get OEM business. And because of the way we operate, the fairly small factory, and because of the way we schedule production, it's actually pretty easy to accommodate small custom orders like that. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, completely different idea from someone else. That is just one piece is not something that I can really afford to have in the factory. Like somebody's design, something completely different from what we have in our catalog. Unless it is a reasonable number, it will be hard to accommodate that.
Yeah, the only one-off customs we do are things like swapping cloth for leather on an existing design. If somebody says, "Hey, I have this great idea and it only works in my Jeep or my RV, can you make one for me?" And, we probably aren't going to do that. We
Okay.
might if we think there's a market for it, but probably we won't.
That brings up a good question here, Jeff. Is that when Shrinka came to you and said she wanted to start this company, if you could help design some stuff for her, how did you know what to start with? I guess basically, since you had been in overlanding before, you kind of knew what kind of products were necessary, maybe, and then also, how do you get ideas for new products?
All of it comes from experience. I mean, I use my vehicles all the time. I have right now I have 3 Jeeps and an Ineos Grenadier, The Grenadier is new, but one of my Jeeps has 330,000 miles on it. My other Jeep, one of my others, has 225, and the baby of the family has 150. So I use these Jeeps a lot on long distance expeditions. I've been to the Arctic Ocean in the north of Alaska. I've been camping in Death Valley. I've explored everywhere in Colorado, off road. So it comes from experience. I mean, I look, all the gear I have to carry to have a successful expedition. And it's like, where am I going to put this? Where am I going to store that? How am I going to do this? So it really comes out of experience. Pretty much all the product designs come out of experience. Sometimes I'll see a product on the market from another company and think, oh my God, what a horrible design, but it's a good idea for storing something. I bet I could come up with a good idea, a good design for the same purpose. That doesn't happen as often, but it's really experience based. I have many miles off road and on expeditions, and I have a need, and I fill it by designing something.
I kind of pictured your company marketed towards the overlander, but you had also mentioned RVers. Is there a market for you guys in overlanding, RVing, and maybe even boating, like and hikers, like almost anything outdoorsy?
Well, we're just starting to get involved a little bit in the RV market. For example, the spare hopper, the storage on the spare product I talked about a few minutes ago, turns out to be pretty popular with people with sprinters because many of them have moved their spares to the back door, and they want a trash bag or they want a bag for firewood or whatever, and it works really well on the sprinter. A number of our other products work there. The seat back bags work there, and some of our kind of overland specific, not vehicle specific bags are very handy. So first aid bags, tool bags, things like that. So we have a number of products that seem to appeal to, I'll call it the sprinter class crowd of RVers. So we're not talking about the big, diesel powered buses and things. We're talking about the smaller RVs. We're looking at other things we can do for those vehicles specifically. We haven't done too many sprinter or other specific products yet, but we are looking to do some more in that market.
Also, for other outdoorsy activities, because our products are made with canvas and leather, they get a little bit heavy, and the market is moving towards lighter materials there
For hiking, yeah.
for hiking. So we do have one bag, which is a cooler kind of bag, which hangs from the back of the seat, which you can use for hiking. But really, it's not a very big part of our customer base.
Like you said, Jeff, the sprinter van, the van life people, we call them in the RV world,
Yeah,
they do not have much storage space.
Exactly.
Just like you said, is the problem with a lot of overlanders. So that's probably a market that is in need of some cool storage products.
We have had some customers who have bought multiple products just to set up their storage in their sprinters from us. We didn't start out by designing any products for them specifically, but they've thought about it, they've measured, and they say two of these, five of these, six of these, I'm going to use them like this, make my storage panel, my wardrobe will be here like this. And they like our product because it's quality, it's not going anywhere, it's not cheap, it's going to hold the weight as well as hold the shape. Both of those things are going to be very important for them, and we've had some of the customers, especially from overlanding customers, who do this day in and day out, buy products from us like that.
Yeah, they look, for example, in a sprinter, several people at this year's Overland West looked at a Molly panel we make for Jeep tailgates, and it's got leather Molly straps, so it's very strong. And they measured and they said, hey, I can mount this in a certain wall inside my sprinter, and let me take 3 of these bags to mount on it. The problem with the sprinter market is, for me, is all the interiors are sort of custom, so it's hard to come up with a product that's going to fit everybody's sprinter or everybody's van. So I'm looking for ideas there and studying the van configurations and seeing what I can do that fits more than just a few vehicles.
And it's your company, and you have the factory in India. How do you handle quality, like quality control, or checking the quality of the work?
We have people in India who are responsible for, like, that's a part. Quality is a built-in part of our process.
Okay.
No product goes out without two-tier checks. They get checked at the time of production, they get checked at the time of packing, and then they get checked one more time before they get shipped. So that's a built-in process. It We don't always get it 100%, but we've had good success 99.9% of the time. There is no error.
And another thing about the way the process works in India, it's sort of like you can think of it a little bit like a production line. So it is not the case that one person start to finish creates one product. So one person will do the leather work on a product, one person will do I'll call it the carcass, one person will do the pockets that go with it, and they hand it to the next person to do the next step. And if it gets to the next person and the prior step wasn't right, it's like, wait a minute, we got to fix that. So quality is kind of built into the way they work.
Also, we have standardized our procurement process so the quality of materials don't go down. We have a certain grade of leather, a certain grain of leather, a certain grain of acrylic, a certain grain of canvas, and that's not changing. We only use a certain type of zips on our production. So we are not cheaping out on quality in terms of materials, and the production process has quality built into it.
I have another question about your like inventory, logistics, and stuff. So I saw you guys obviously at the show, and I was able to purchase directly from you at that show. But somebody listening, somebody that wants to purchase one of your products, do they just go to the website and they find what they like on the website and they can order directly from you, or do they need to find you in stores and they purchase that way? How does somebody actually get the product from you?
We store and inventory most of our SKUs. So if you go to our website and buy, that is a very good place to buy because all our products are there. We do have resellers, popular resellers like Quadratech, like Extreme Terrain. They do carry our products. Amazon carries our products through Quadratech. So that is another place to buy from as well. It's not hard. If you Google Overland Outfitters, you'd be able to find the product. Like, for example, Quadratech is a Jeep retailer primarily, Jeep accessory retailer. So they don't carry all our products that maybe for Grenadier or maybe for other vehicles like Toyota, but they do carry a large line. Similarly, there is a limited line that Extreme Terrain was wanting to showcase in their forum. So the best place will be Overland Outfitters, and aside from that, you can go to Quadratech. Extreme Terrain carries our products, not our brand. So they don't show up as Overland Outfitter products, but you will probably be able to buy the products from there as well.
So when you're I'm going back to the manufacturing now. How do you decide, or is it just like a schedule? One day we're producing this product, one day we're producing this one. How does that work?
It's a good question, Kenny. Actually, it's been such a challenge for me over the last 5 years because the market changes every single year. Jeff is a compulsive designer. It's hard to put everything he designs into production. I'll give you an example. Like 5 years ago, when I started, we have something called a tool roll, and that we sold hundreds of tool rolls. It was seemed to be a great best-selling product, and then the year later we couldn't have made as many tool rolls because we didn't sell so many. And then today I have a stock of tool rolls that hasn't moved at all in the last 6 months. So people generally have become less hands-on, so tool rolls are not selling. The market changes every year. It changes the models that we design. For example, in 2020, we had a product come out which was door pockets for the JK. And people were so fed up of their net door pockets that we sold a ton of those. And then year 2024, we sold only 20% of those door pockets for JK because JL was released in 23 or 18, and then they started losing the shape and form on their door
The
factory nets. So the market changes a lot. I have to stay on top of what people are liking and not liking. So I go to 3 Jeep shows. Even though I'm a single person in this company, I do manage to haul myself to Jeep shows because that gives me a pulse of the market. It tells me what people are liking this year, what people are not liking this year, so that I can plan my production of products for the next year. But it helps to have a custom, a space where I don't have to order 1,000 units of anything. It just is much easier to have that small factory set up to be able to change when people start changing their interests or vehicles.
Yeah, it sounds more complicated than I expected.
Yeah, for sure. And we had a question a little further down, but I'm going to throw it in here now because you had mentioned some of your products here, and you mentioned the tool roll. We were going to ask you, what do you believe is essential gear that somebody should be carrying with them? And I'm going to throw out that the tool roll for me, unfortunately, I don't own one of your tool rolls. I own somebody else's tool roll. I've had it for years. I feel like that is an essential product right there. Once I started using a tool roll, I'll never carry my tools in any other way while on the move. You pack so much into a tool roll, and it takes up so little space after it's all wound up. I'm surprised that those sales have declined a little bit because I think the tool roll I don't know. I just think it's a great great invention or a great product. But what else do you guys recommend as essential gear that you think that a starting overlander should have?
Well, it really depends on what your activities are going to be. I mean, there are some things that, as Kenny was saying, the roll bar products that he got from us at the show, you always have little things you need to carry, and they get lost in the vehicle. So you were talking about your tire pressure gauge and your deflators and your flashlights and all that stuff. So there's basic storage for those kind of items that everybody needs. We recommend everybody should carry a first aid bag. We recommend everybody should carry some basic collection of tools. And then depending on what you're doing, if you leave the pavement, if you don't leave the pavement, if you set up camp, if you camp on top of your vehicle, if you camp on a tent on the ground, you're going to need different things, and those different things are going to need different kinds of storage. So, there's a generic set of things like Kenny got from us, and like a tool roll and a first aid bag that everybody needs. There's things that replace bad functionality in the original vehicle, like the Jeep Wranglers have these storage nets on the doors that the first time you put something in, they stretch beyond use. So this just makes that functional again. So there's those kind of things. And then, like I said, it depends on exactly what your activities are.
And I also wanted to highlight your products again. I know I've done that a few times, but when I was at the show and I saw some of your products, I don't know if this was a prototype or something, and I'm probably going to say the name of the vehicle incorrectly, even though you've mentioned it a couple times. Is it Grenadier?
Yes, Grenadier. Yes.
Grenadier. So you had a Grenadier there. You had the back doors open, and you had a storage bag on the back door. And I would say that you guys go the extra mile when designing something, or Jeff, I guess you're going the extra mile when designing something because you actually designed the bag to fit around the door handle.
Yeah.
So that you got the maximum amount of storage out of that back panel instead of maybe just cutting that storage bag in half and maybe stopping at the door handle. You actually build your bag to go around that door handle. Is that something that I know obviously that you are conscious of, but is that just something that is inherently in you that you have to go that extra mile for that
Yes.
detail to go around that door handle instead of just like, I don't know, skipping it all together?
It's kind of like my OCD design philosophy. I have to use every possible cubic inch of space that I can, because there's just never enough storage. In fact, another Grenadier product. So you're talking about the Grenadier has a split rear door. There's a narrow door and a wide door, right? And they open up. And the product you're talking about is a panel that goes on the narrow door, and that's got an inside door handle. And of course, I worked around that. On the other door, the wide door, there's actually a storage compartment in the door, recessed into the door. And I designed a panel there that actually goes into that recess. So it doubles the space available in that recess, because it also sticks out a little bit from the recess. It was just another way to get more storage than would have been possible any other way.
Also, I think just to add to that, Kenny, a lot of that is possible to implement because we have everything handcrafted. If you sent it out to factories, you might not be able to get the detailing around the handle done.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I'm sure that plays a big role into it. But to me, as a consumer, when I look at stuff like that, I appreciate the fact that you go that extra mile and get that most out of that storage. Maybe it's because I am in a small Jeep TJ, but yeah, just those little things really add up, and I would imagine that other consumers pick up on those details too. And that's something that I believe would really make you guys stand apart from other companies.
Yeah, the people really do appreciate kind of what I'll call the form fitting of our products to the vehicle. For example, that we have a product called the saddlebag, which goes in the 4-door Jeep. It goes behind the back seat. In the 2-door, it goes in front of the back seat, and it's conformed to the curved and sloped inner fenders. So it maximizes the use of that kind of previously unusable space. I mean, you can't put anything on there because it's a slope, and you can't put a standard bag there because it's curved. But we've kind of crafted a bag that follows that curve and slope and maximizes the space available. So I do spend a lot of time, like I said, maximizing every available cubic inch.
I'm also curious, do you guys work with anybody else in the overlanding space? Like, is there anybody that makes a product or a particular gear piece, and you guys maybe make a storage bag for them? I have my compressor in mind. Like, my air compressor came with a bag, and the bag is junk. The air compressor is great, but the bag is terrible. And I would just think, man, if this company would maybe reach out to a company like you guys, they could be making a high quality bag to go with their product, and it would really elevate the quality of their product. I think I'm sometimes afraid to put, the air compressor is hot after you're done using it to fill up your 4 tires. I'm sometimes afraid to put this compressor into the bag because I feel it's all melted. Do you guys work? Do you guys work with any products that are out there that you maybe make a bag for them?
First of all, let me comment on, we have a compressor bag, and it's actually quite different than any other compressor bag on the market, because the way it's designed, the compressor actually mounts inside the bag, and to use it, you don't have to remove it from the bag. The way the bag opens, instead of having, most compressor bags will have a zipper around the top, and you open the lid and then you pull the compressor out. This one has a diagonal zipper that goes from the bottom corner all the way around to the other side on the top and back to the other bottom corner. So it opens sort of at an angle, and the compressor can sit in this bag and run and be cool without taking it out of the bag. We actually did that sort of in partnership with a Chinese compressor company. They do OEM work, so they don't have a brand that you know in the U.S., but they do compressors for many of the compressor companies. And I worked with them. They actually donated the compressor to prototype the bag. So that may bear some fruit down the road as they sell their compressors to some of these other companies to market. There was a company at Overland West. They have a product. It's a folding toilet product called Thunderbox. It's from Australia, and they had been selling it in a burlap bag, believe it or not. And we got together last year at Overland West, and they liked our quality so much. They said, can you do a bag for our toilet? And we did. And it's a very high quality acrylic bag, so it's easily washable, very strong. It's a ripstop acrylic, It's got a shoulder strap, so as you're carrying your folding toilet off into the wild to have some privacy, it's easy to carry. We put their branding on it as well as ours, and they're really happy with it. We've also done a product or two in cooperation with Moride, the RV company. You probably know of RV because of your connection with the RV industry. What you may not know is Moride has a line of Jeep hardware products, all of which I designed for them. So I try to connect the companies I designed for. And so Shrinka's company has done some storage or carrying bags for some of the Moride products.
Okay, so you guys already are involved in that type of collaboration. So that's great to hear. That answers my question perfectly.
Yeah. Another example, we do. You're familiar with tailgate tables in the Jeep market. They bolt to the tailgate and they fold down.
Yeah.
We do a product called a cutlery keeper, which mounts behind the folding table, and it's got pockets for all your cutlery, knives and forks and spoons, and it stays in place when you fold the table up. So you don't have to get your cutlery out each time you go to use the table. You fold your table down, it's already there because it's behind the table. We've done that with Outback Adventures Trailgater, which is probably the best-selling tailgate table on the market. We've done it with Goose Gear's tailgate table, and we've actually been talking to another company about it too.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go and take a look at that compressor bag because, like I said, the compressor I have, just all compressors get hot, and when I'm done using my compressor, I sit it to the side and wait a little while, let it cool down before I put it back in this bag. And maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe this bag would hold up just fine, but just something about the material that I don't know. Maybe it's a nylon.
If the bag is synthetic, heat's going to damage it. That's what happens with synthetics.
Okay, so I'm not being paranoid.
No. In fact, when we work with acrylic as one of our synthetics, and we cut it with a hot knife because what happens is when you cut fabric with a acrylic with a hot knife, it seals the edge so it never unravels. So the heat of a compressor will damage the fabric.
Okay. Well, that's good to know then. I'm not. I am thinking of this correctly.
Our compressor bag is made from the heavy-duty canvas and leather, so it's really not going to get hurt at the temperatures a compressor works at.
Okay, perfect.
And when you go look at it, take a look at how it opens because, like I said, it basically mounts inside the bag firmly, doesn't come out of the bag, and when you open the bag, you got plenty of airflow.
Okay, yeah. When you described it, it almost sounded to me almost like it opens up like the clamshell bags, but maybe I'm thinking of it differently.
It's kind of a clamshell.
Okay.
I remember years ago, probably late 90s, early 2000s, when the military introduced Molly products for deployments and, all of our gear and stuff. Is that still a popular product for overlanders? And then also, I guess part two to that question is, are there any new trends that you're seeing in terms of gear for overlanders?
Yeah, we do a number of Molly products. I am personally not a fan of Molly. I hate threading those straps through the grid. So what we've done is we have a line of bags that work with Molly panels, but they have clips on the back like a belt clip. So rather than having to string the Molly straps through the grid to hang the bag or to remove it, you basically clip it on like you're putting something on your belt. And those have turned out to be really popular because we call them grab and go bags because you basically grab it, yank it off the Molly panel and off you go.
And then the reason why they work is because the Molly panel that we build has leather straps.
Very strong
leather straps. And so it's almost like a belt instead of that other webbing fabric. Yeah. The buckles work, the clips work, and the belting material really just does the job.
Yeah, you're right. Those straps, the grids can be troublesome at times, especially if you have a full pack already. It's hard sometimes to squeeze the stuff through the webbing. Yeah.
And then as far as trends are concerned, the second part of your question, I think we broke the trend. And instead of MOLLE straps, we made those belt hooks, and people have loved it. The reaction from the customer base has been just phenomenal. I mean, I still to date, every time I'm at a show, I have to show them, you know how this really works. You don't have to really put it all the way in. You just pull it. So, and the reaction always is amazing, amazing.
Yeah, people who use MOLLE and are used to threading and unthreading them come up to the booth, and Shrinka will grab the handle on top of a bag and yank it right off the panel, and people are like, "What? How did that work?"
Are you guys going to be, before we get too further here, are you guys going to be at Overland East by any chance?
Yes, we are this year. Yes.
Okay. I'll be there, and I think Sean, you're going this year?
I should make it there.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Yeah. I'm hoping Sean can get to see your products in person, get his hands on them to check them out. I think he'll be very impressed with them as well.
Good.
But also that's a good way. Also, our audience can hear that you will be at Overland East. And for anybody listening that wants to see your products in person, that's a great opportunity for them to feel the materials, check out the quality themselves. I think everybody will be impressed with what they see there.
Yeah, well, we'll be looking for both of you at the show.
Okay. And then for anybody though that maybe doesn't go to the shows and things like that, what's the best way for somebody to maybe connect with your company, connect with Overland Outfitters, maybe stay up to date? Do you guys do newsletters or product releases? How do people know like what's coming out next?
The best way to know what are the new products is to just visit the website.
Another way people find out about the products is that
The shows.
Well, no, they follow me on various forums, because I do most of my design work very publicly, and I do that for a reason. I mean, there's a risk to it because people could knock off the idea before we could even get it to market. But the benefit of it is people see it and they're like, well, what if, or how about, they give me ideas. Sometimes they're just useless ideas, but many times they're very, very valuable ideas. So I'll post like on the expedition portal. If I'm doing a new grenadier design, I'll post a concept drawing and see what people think. And I'll get some feedback, and then I'll sew a prototype. I'll get some more feedback. We'll refine it. Then I'll turn it over to Shrinka. I've got several threads on the expedition portal with over 1 million views, and people follow me and find out about the products that way. And not only Overland Outfitters products, but new MORride products, new products for some of the other companies I do design work for.
How do they see that again, Jeff?
Various threads on Expedition Portal is one. I've been posting the Grenadier stuff on both the Expedition Portal and on Facebook. Although I don't really like to post too much design stuff on Facebook because it's so transient. I mean, once you've seen a post, there's no thread to it, right? You've seen a post, it goes away. It kind of goes away. But in a forum thread, people can follow along. They can follow with the progress of the design. They can see if their suggestion got implemented. So I know forums are kind of a dying thing, and Facebook is taking over. But I'm still a diehard forum fan.
Well, we can put a link to that in the show notes,
Sure.
to the Expedition forum.
And we'll also have a link to your website as well.
Good.
Well, I think that's all of our questions. But before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything that we missed?
No, I think that was a great interview. I couldn't have come up with better questions myself. I don't think you've left anything unturned.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd suggest is that people should visit the website and get a feel for the products, because I think when they go there, they'll gain an appreciation for what we've been talking about for the last hour. They'll see the style, they'll see the quality, they'll see the uniqueness, they'll see the kind of the retro feel of some of the designs, and I think they'll fall in love.
Yeah, and I think especially after hearing the story and the reason why you're doing this, Shrinka, is to bring work back to where you're from. I think that makes people, when they see the products, appreciate the quality even more. So I think I'm really impressed by that you're not in it strictly for making money. You're in it to better a community, and I think that's very commendable, and really glad that you guys were able to come on to the show and talk about the process and the products. So thank you very much.
It's been our pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having us.
This interview is why I enjoy going to the Overland Expos and RV events. It's great being able to meet with the owners of companies in the space and seeing their product in person. And just like you heard with Shrinka and Jeff, they are passionate about bringing quality storage solutions into the overlanding vehicles as well as small RVs. One look at Overland Outfitters products and you will see why I instantly fell in love with their design and function. Be sure to check out our show notes to see the photos and use the links to get to their website as well as Jeff's Expedition portal. Take care all and safe travels. Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com. With the complexity of all the systems in an RV, I always say it's not if something's going to break, but a matter of when is something going to break. That is why I think an extended warranty for RVs is so important. We first interviewed wholesale warranties back in 2019 and immediately became impressed with how their policies worked, such as you can take your RV to any licensed repair shop, including mobile repairs. They also have personalized service plans, making sure you are getting the right policy for your needs. And if you think your RV is too old for a policy, you might be surprised to hear that RVs up to 20 years old can still be approved for a policy. That is more age lenient than most RV parks I've stayed at. Go to wholesalewarranties.com/beyond the wheel or click the link down below in our show notes to get your free quote today.